Last night, some of us went out for tea, and we had a beautiful experience of fellowship. And it was that very experience that brought about a deeper experience, which is going to be the class today. Last night, as I arrived to my room, the experience was just waiting. And the title of this class is going to be Play as a Mystical Experience. Play is our capacity to examine reality without the burdens of preconceived ideas. Play manifests itself as the very substance of our experience. Let's think of Joel for a minute. And let's think of the childlikeness of Joel. Joel, in many ways, was a child moving about this tremendous mystical experience which he expressed and which in turn expressed him. If we miss the dimension of play as the very creative process in our lives, we missed one of the most important part of the mystical experience. Play, the very concept, the very creative process of play, which is not being irresponsible. It's the very opposite, which is being absolutely creative when we allow that dimension of play be expressed in our lives. Play gives us a dimension of compassion, because as we move about our business every day, we can transcend the daily experience, I think it's in English you call it the humdrum experience of the daily life, and have the compassion to understand and see other people as they are. And in turn, we begin to see ourselves as we are. Think what meditation would be without play. Without that spontaneity within ourselves, as we go within and begin to rejoice in the tremendous experience which is right identification. Once you look at yourself purely as you are, moving about, expressing what you are. Remember what we talked about last night. God is fulfilling itself as us. It was a beautiful experience which I had with my teacher Laura Perkipine. She related to me, or to some of us. One time she was meditating with Joel in the hotel room. And as she was meditating with Joel, Joel opened his eyes and screamed at her, "Laura, you can't meditate while you're frowning." And it's true. How can you meditate without that free-flowing dimension which is play. To move about and have our being in God. How can we move about and have our life and our business and everything unless we go about it like a child? How can we do it? And there we get fulfillment and we get the real joy of life, which is one thing we tend to miss. We become too serious about the purpose and the project, which is the spiritual life. We must go about it in joy, in play. And here comes the dimension, another dimension of play, which is healing. Once we move about this deep inner experience, which is so joyful, which is so much fun, and which is so natural, there is nothing out of the world about this spiritual experience. It's like the leaves of grass. They are very simple and they are very infinite. The whole of it is there. The whole of it is within each one of us. Think of yourself, each of your human bodies, our three-dimensional bodies, as a galaxy. If you look at it biologically, just on the surface of our skin, there are more bacteria than there are human beings on the planet Earth. Then go within just this body and look at all the harmonies that are working together to bring about the functioning of the body. And all the bacteria that live within us, within this body. And without it, the body will not function. Like the intestinal flora, which is bacteria. If we don't have it, we cannot digest. Just look at this whole process of harmony, playing. We don't think of the body as a functioning thing. We just don't think about it. It functions. And then think that the body is like nothing compared to the soul that gives it life. Like our car. The soul tells the body, function. It brought it into experience. And the body functions as long as the soul is commanding it, as consciousness is commanding it. The body is digesting because our consciousness has digest. And that very energy, that free-flowing energy of the spirit is play. We are the world, playing, absolutely playing, moving about in this tremendous joy, which is the glory of God that we manifest now. We are the glory of God. The very life that sings itself as each and every one of you and me. I was telling some friends for breakfast, when I first started meditating, I had a major problem, which was the social conditioning that you are not worthy of God. that we are warm in the dust, and no matter what you did, you're not worthy of God. And I had to spend about 2 years affirming about 1,000 times a day, I'm worthy of God. And I think about the end of 2 years, when I began to forget that I was unworthy, it was when it became manifest in my life that indeed we are worthy of it, because we are it coming into expression. Love is another dimension of play. And you can say play is a dimension of love. It makes no difference. You cannot separate the ring from roundness. It's impossible. Love brings us that dimension, or vice versa. But we must learn to express it and to let it flow. And here are the 6 days of labor again. You just don't have the experience and it's immediately manifested. You might have the experience or you might not. Because we usually think of an experience as something that happens. We hardly ever think of an experience as something that is an idea that just passed through our minds. That is also an experience. Or something that we hear from somebody else passing by and it touches us. As we are touched by it, that is the very experience itself that reaches our consciousness. Actually, it did not reach our consciousness. It seemed that it came from outside, but actually is our very unconsciousness made itself manifest through somebody else. Last night, as I walked into my room, and I couldn't take my shoes off. It just happened, and it went on through the whole night. And when I went to sleep, it blossomed in the sleep. I spent the whole night laughing. But you see, it's that simple experience, the very joy that we are children of God. Why not play around? Why not run around the roses and smell them and run and just rejoice in it? This is what the kingdom of God is all about. To rejoice in the experience. And sometimes, even when we are in pain, if we just look at the pain as an experience, it's transmuted. And here's the alchemical thing of changing metals into gold. That experience is transmuted into a meaningful experience. Because pain, if you look at it for what it is energy. You either let it go this way or channel it creatively. It becomes a flow. How do we express this joy among us? Through relationships with one another. We rejoice in our relationships with one another. In that oneness, in that very the philosopher's stone, which is the bond and the communion of relationship with one another, is God rejoicing itself as us. We are that world being born every single second. Every single minute of our lives. And it's simple, it's a very simple experience. It's nothing transcendental to it. It's eating and drinking and working. When we do it in the conscious awareness of what we are. That very simple experience, that carnation does not think twice in becoming what it is. It just blossoms. It just blossoms. Last night, as I walked into my room, I couldn't sit down to meditate with my eyes closed and get all serious about it. I walked in and it hit me and I started laughing. And then it just began to blossom. And many times I tried to go to bed and I would be up, writing notes, doing this, and just rejoicing in the whole experience of being alive. When I finally was able to sleep, to fall asleep, and the dream world opened up, and there it was, the same experience being played back in a dream. I had asked the hotel to wake me up at 7. Well, they didn't have to wake me up. I was up very early again. And again, the same experience. I just couldn't even close my eyes and get all serious about it. Because meditation sometimes is not closing your eyes and sitting in a chair. Meditation many times is just being alive and aware of your inner identity, of your right identity. You open the windows and let the light come through and bathe you in the joy of whatever God is, which is always elusive. You think God is this. Yes, it's right now, this is what God it is to me. But 10 minutes from now, it's going to be a completely different experience and something else. God is that very infinite experience which we are. I remember I had the privilege of, when my father moved on, of being with him and have a beautiful experience to say goodbye to him. And then after he passed on, we grew closer and closer and closer together. To me, my father, or my biological father, because actually we only have one father, and that is God. Let's call this my so-called biological father my friend. He's closer to me today than we ever were alive. And it was basically because of that dimension of joy, of play. I feel the presence of that man in me 24 hours a day. And he was a man who was not religious the way you would think of being religious. As a matter of fact, those in my family who were quote-unquote religious did not have the impact that that man who never mentioned the word God had. And it's that dimension of play that brings it together, that makes that communion with him and with you possible. is the fuel, or the how can I say, it's the what brings it together, the glue that brings us together. As we move about each other, as we share, as we give each other everything we've got, playfully, laughing, having fun, and at the same time, it's the very depth of our experience. With a smile from one ear to the other, with laughter, running about like a little child. And that's what we are. You see, that keeps the body, the mind, the spirit, everything young and fulfilled. The cup is always running over. As I was laughing last night, two Bible quotes came to mind. One was King David. They were bringing the ark to Jerusalem, and it's in 2 Samuel chapter 6. And he was told, King David, saying, "The Lord hath blessed the house of Obed-Edom, and all that pertaineth unto him, because of the ark of God." So David went and brought up the ark, and got from the house of Obed-Edom into the city of David with gladness. And it was so, that when they that bare the ark of the Lord had gone 6 paces, he sacrificed oxen and fatlings. And David danced before the Lord with all his might, and David was girded with a linen ephod. So David and all the house of Israel brought up the ark of the Lord with shouting and with the sound of the trumpet. And as the ark of the Lord came into the city of David, Michal, I can't pronounce her name, Saul's daughter, looked through the window and saw King David leaping and dancing before the Lord, and she despised him in her heart. And they brought in the ark of the Lord, and set it in his place, in the midst of the tabernacle that David had pitched for it. And David offered burnt offerings and peace offerings before the Lord. And as soon as David had made an end of offering burnt offerings and peace offerings, he blessed the people in the name of the Lord of hosts. And he dealt among all the people, even among the whole multitude of Israel, as well to the women as men, and to every one a cake of bread, and a good piece of flesh, and a flagon of wine. So all the people departed, and every one to his house. Then David returned to bless his household. And Michal, the daughter of Saul, came out to meet David, and said, "How glorious was the king of Israel today, who uncovered himself today in the eyes of the handmaids of his servants, as well as the vain fellows shamelessly uncovered himself." And David said unto Michal, "It was before the Lord, which chose me before thy father, and before all his house, to appoint me ruler over the people of the Lord, over Israel. Therefore will I play before the Lord. And I will yet be more vile than thus, and will be base in mine own sight. And of the maidservants which thou hast spoken of them shall I be had in honor. Therefore Michal, the daughter of Saul, had no child unto the day of her death. You see, it's that joyful dimension that bears fruit, that makes us give birth. We are giving birth daily to this spiritual experience, and it is giving us birth. God gives himself birth as us, if we let the experience happen. We are that child. If we look at this experience metaphorically, if we look at King David and Michal, or Michal, I think is the way you pronounce it. If you look at the experience, it's that dimension of play, of rejoicing in what we are, that make us alive, to be alive and fulfilled. It is that play, that dimension of running around like David. He was just high on his experience, playing around and manifesting his true identity. What we are. That carnation did not think twice in blossoming. Why should we take thought about blossoming ourselves? If we take thought about it, we are going to blossom anyhow. But we are going to lose that dimension of joy, of not taking thought about it. You go into your meditations and meditate in whichever way comes to you. Sometimes we'll sit down, close our eyes, and meditate. But sometimes it's just taking a walk. Sometimes it's just driving. You just take off, and all of a sudden a peace begins to blossom. And that is meditation. Meditation and play is also silence. We always think of silence as something very serious. And we try to stop the noise in our heads. And we think that is silence, or in the presence of God. Of course not. Silence is the absence of self. Whether there is noise outside or noise within, it makes no difference. Silence is the joy of God manifesting consciously as us. That is also silence. Silence is when someone needs what we have and we joyfully give it. That is also silence, and that is also play. Sometimes if we sit to meditate with our eyes closed and frowning and spend 2 hours on a chair, we're just destroying the whole experience. However, if we do what we feel, I mean, many times I'm meditating, and before I realize it, I'm up and going and doing something. And in the beginning, I used to say, oh my God, this is wrong, and I would rush back to my chair. No, I had to learn to get up and do whatever was coming through. And that was meditation, because you're doing exactly what you must at that very second. Whether it's to talk to someone, in my case to talk to a student, to go to a class, and just be. You see, as you are, is very much like the fragrance of a flower. In the very process of being, you're bathing everyone around you, and you're not even aware of it. Usually, when you're joyful, you don't know that you're joyful until somebody tells you so. They just come and say, my God, what's happening to you today? I mean, what did I do? Well, you are so joyful today. It's the fragrance of the flower. You're just giving it off with no thought. And as they are touched by it, you become aware of your inner identity. God shining through you and as you. We are the world. We are God fulfilling itself as us joyfully, playfully. And the whole thing is in the silence. Even though we might be making noise as David was making. Because the noise has nothing to do with the silence within you. It has absolutely nothing to do. Silence is a dimension of the soul. If you want to call it, it's the absence of self. But I would not give much thought to it. Just express it. Just be and express it. Sometimes when someone needs most of you, without any thought, you just go over and embrace the person. And you just give them everything you've got. And you're not aware that that person is in absolute need of that expression of love. And how do you give it? In silence, because you're not even aware of it. All you were aware of a desire to embrace that person. How are you giving it? In silence. How is the person receiving it? In silence. How is it manifested? Out of the rooftops. That's the whole secret. And it's not secret at all. You see, we've been ever since we opened our eyes to this three-dimensional world, we've been saying, I do this and I do that. And what happens when we discover the secret? The secret is I. And I've been saying it all along. Was it a secret? No. Yeah, and yet it was a secret. Because it was the other dimension of ourselves, our true dimension, which we were not aware of. And the whole difference is becoming aware of it. I think it's the book Damien. by Hermann Hesse. But I'm not sure that it says there is a big difference between having the world within you and being aware of it. And it's just that thin veil that we talked about last night. When you go out and look at nature and you become aware that you are nature. It's very easy to look at the birds and the trees and say nature. But when you become aware that you are also nature, you can never say nature without saying nature, pointing both ways at the same time. Right identification. And you look at the night sky, and again, you say the universe. Well, when you reflect, and all of a sudden you realize, of course, there is the universe out there. And so the earth is one with the universe. I am one with the earth, and I am one with the universe. The universe and I are one. And now think of yourself as a galaxy. All these inner harmonies, or not yourself, of your body as a galaxy. All these inter-harmonious systems functioning at once in perfect harmony. And all being controlled by your own consciousness. And now look at the Milky Way. See if there's any difference. We are it in the process of becoming aware of itself. You see, God fulfilling itself as us. God rejoicing in play, creating itself in infinite individualities that we are. Look, it's having a trip. Look what an experience God is having in this whole creation constant that's happening now of the universe. And then go into any field of knowledge, whether it's physics, whether it is anatomy or biology, whatever, psychology, and look at it as a lens to see all this harmony teeming with joy. And then realize that is what we are. We are the glory of God. We are the joy of God. We are that very second of explosion when the universe became aware of itself, that we call the Big Bang. But the Big Bang is now. It's not 20 billion years ago. It's now. And it's us. We are that burst of energy that laughs and rejoices itself in right identification. God fulfills itself joyfully and playfully. Silence. The universe, God Himself, is pure silence. And that is what we are. It has nothing to do with noise. It has to do with expression. We cannot know God with the intellect. We can only express it. And usually we become aware of it after we express it, and that's already old. The act of becoming aware of it has a touch with the past. The act of expressing God is now. And as you express God, you do not think, because it's silence. It just comes forth. We become aware of it, we go back to the past, and then drop it. We must move forward. As a matter of fact, we have no choice but moving forward, because consciousness is an irreversible process. When I went to high school, to me that was a very tremendous experience, because I became aware that knowledge was irreversible. And for a while I was terrified. The fact that I was going into this place to learn things which I could not erase. And I was, for a few months, I was thinking of not learning anymore. I wanted to stop the process which I had no control over. And after a lot of thought about it, after I gave it a lot of thought, I realized that no matter what I did, I would learn. Then I might as well do it consciously. So I went to school conscious. But it never left me the fact that consciousness was an irreversible process. It does not move backwards. You cannot erase it, you can only move forward. And that edge of forwardness is now. And you cannot go an inch behind it, or above it, or ahead of it. You can only be on that very edge, on that edge of fire that now is constantly exploding. If we learn to leave, and let me tell you, we have no choice, but the choice is in that becoming aware and living in that flame. You see, you know, in a Bunsen burner, you have that flame which is blue, and then the very hot one is white. We have to learn to live on that very white area, which is now. It's never yesterday, it's never tomorrow, it's always now. And it's constantly exploding with new things. I've never seen consciousness, or what we're doing right here, I never see it as my experience. To me, it is our experience. I just happen to be the mouthpiece of it. Last night, when we went out to have tea, some of us, and we talked, at the end of the experience, I felt completely what I would call a crystal clear emptiness. When I was walking out with some of you, it was like a crystal clear emptiness, which I did not know what to make out of it, except it's pure meditation. This was a group meditation, expressing itself as fellowship. And I walked into my room, and as the door opened, the flowers were blossoming. And all I could do was just smile for a while and then laugh. Really laugh. and just let it happen. Let the whole joy of the universe that we are, of this experience that we have brought into expression, or it has brought us into expression, whichever, just blossom, and I would just float with it. And these are the fruits. I was hoping I had enough words to express it, because sometimes it's difficult to translate into words an inner experience. And sometimes the most you can do is approach it and get close to it, but you never really, the fire burning, that very white center of heat, goes on unexpressed. Last night, or this morning actually, it was very early this morning, this idea kept emerging, no? That we are all pregnant with God. And God is born as we express it. You see, we always want to think of God as a child, or as a quote-unquote living being, three-dimensional being. But God is expression. God is not only a three-dimensional being who's spiritual, or a spirit who expresses itself three-dimensionally. God is the very expression itself. We give birth to it, conscious. And that's the key to the whole thing. A few years ago, I was coming from Florida, and the plane had a flat tire when we took off Miami. So we were prepared for a crash landing in Newark. While we were being prepared, and you go through all these preparations in the air, I was afraid for a minute. Because it's an experience where you cannot get out of. You are in it, you cannot get off the plane. And I remember I tried to meditate, but I was so afraid I couldn't. And I said to myself, what a waste of time. And I came here I have all these years of training in meditation, and now that I need it the most, it doesn't work. So I went within with a question, and I said to myself, how would I die? And from the very depth of my being came the answer, conscious. And the fear disappeared, and the plane did not crash. You see, it's doing in each moment what's necessary. If we cannot close our eyes because we're afraid, it's a mistake just to deny that we are afraid. It's better just to face the fear. You look at it square in the eyes and says, come on, I'm afraid. And now the next step. If this experience has the appearance of death in it, well, okay, I have to go through it, so how would I die? And then, from the silence of your being, the answer comes. And the experience disappears, and if you have to move on, you just move on gently and have the experience. key to the whole process goes back to play. Let's rejoice in the experience of God as we are. Let's dance with it. You see, it's not that seriousness that we're so uptight. We're not supposed to be sick. We're not supposed to do this. We're not supposed to do anything. Because we are. When you are being who you are, you're not supposed to do anything but be what you are. Which is pure expression. Pure life, pure silence. The totality of silence which we are. Anytime we do not attain silence, which you cannot attain what you already are. We cannot attain the God experience because we are it. And how are we it joyfully? Joyfully. If we happen to be sick, there's no point in denying it. Remember what we talked last night. Healing is like that wall. Physical healing would be like a dot made on that wall, and we are centering all our attention in that small dot, and we are forgetting about the expanse that healing is. Healing is that whole wall, and we are not even thinking about it. We want physical healing, and in a specific one, we want to get rid of this headache now. And we are not even asking the headache, what do you have to teach me? Why am I going through this experience? Once we take our eyes off that dot and look at the expanse, it's like driving. When you are driving, you do not look at the road. You just look peripherally at everything at once, and you do what you must. You don't look at the road. If you just look at the road, you'll have an accident. You look at the whole landscape, and you turn and you move about the streets with no problems. And if anybody gets in the middle, you stop automatically with no thought. If you take thought on the action, you kill somebody. When you have to brake, you just brake and then you think. The same thing is with this spiritual experience that we are. There's no thought to it. There is just being, moving about and having our being in God. And I don't like the word to say having our being in God, because we are also that which is being. But the words are very limited, and we must use those limitations and hope that we can get the picture. And you see, we have worked with this and talked about it. And it is, we are not cloud nining it. Because if there is one thing, one absolute in the spiritual life, is that we must always go to basics every day. We are never too advanced. to not go to basics. It's absolutely important that we go back to square one every single day when we get up. We cannot live on cloud nine without losing the experience. Cloud nine is usually an experience that lasts very short time. We always come back to square one, to the first exercises of meditation that we did when we first began. The difference is in the conscious awareness. When we first began, we hardly knew what we were doing. Today, we have a conscious awareness of what we are doing. But the tools are the same. Meditation. The act of getting up in the morning and saying, "Oh God, another day to show forth that I and the Father are one." Fine. If the idea of using the Father bothers you, use whatever idea you want. Makes no difference. Even no idea, which is, in many ways, is a lot better. Just getting up and knowing that I am. And you get up, wash your face, consciously. That's the whole key. To wash your face in the morning consciously. To have your breakfast consciously. To take the first step out into the street consciously. To look at somebody in the eye consciously and knowing that you are what I am. God fulfilling itself joyfully. You can say that God hangeth the world on nothing. Let's add, God hangeth the world on joy and play. Those planets, that universe is playing around, and rejoicing in being what I am. What you are. This whole bursting in the conscious awareness of the universe today that we have with all the satellites and things is a tremendous experience, because we can see ourselves, we can see our consciousness functioning harmoniously. When they discover a supernova and all the things bursting out millions of light years away, when we see these things, look at yourself. Look at your heart bursting away in joy. Look at all the bacteria in our bodies. Look at all your brain waves. Look at the blood cells and the whole thing functioning in harmony like a whole galaxy, bringing about a three-dimensional body. And right behind it, in it, because joy and play, there's no choice in it, but it's the spontaneous bursting forth of life. The life that we are. Now, as we come to a close, I'm going to ask you one thing. Let's meditate for about 10 minutes. Because I have a feeling that this is going to be a more meaningful meditation. Now, after the experience. Thank you.